Hey there, and welcome back to Ocean Connections for Day 4, A Sustainable Future.
You've been through some incredible lessons so far, and I'm sure that at times they've seemed a tad stressful. But like we mentioned at the beginning, there are already so many amazing solutions that humans are working towards every single day. Today's lesson is called A Sustainable Future because sustainability is at the heart of solving the climate crisis. We're going to go through many different solutions to some of the challenges that were introduced in earlier lessons. So start thinking about what interests you, what questions you may have, and who knows, maybe if you want to work in one of these fields. We think it's pretty fun.
The first couple solutions relate to sustainable farming. So, let's talk about changing how we purchase, grow, and eat our food. You've probably heard people say it's healthier to shop locally, but it's also much better for our planet too. Think about all the fuel it costs to ship food all over the country. Here in Hawaii, it costs so much to ship food this far into the Pacific that it's actually cheaper to buy local most of the time. Then there's animal agriculture. The production of livestock has a huge carbon footprint for a few reasons. Cows produce methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, as well as most of the land we use for farming is used to grow food for livestock, not humans, like soy, wheat, and corn. It also uses so much of our fresh water, which is becoming more and more scarce. By limiting your consumption of only beef and nothing else, you can reduce your individual carbon footprint by around 60%. This is one reason why plant-based eating has become more and more popular lately. Remember, even one day a week without eating meat is helping our planet. Now let's talk about farming practices and soil health. This is where I'm going to recommend Kiss the Ground, an incredible documentary that teaches us the importance of soil and how healthy soil can actually reverse climate change. Essentially, our use of pesticides and harmful fertilizers is causing more release of emissions, not to mention what it puts in the food we eat. If we instead harness natural systems during our farming, like more than one crop on a field, or using food scraps to make compost, and no more tilling, our soil will become a carbon sink that pulls carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. See, the solutions to climate change are already here.
Hello, renewable energy. Unlike fossil fuels, energy that comes from renewables can be harnessed almost forever in a clean way. Before we cover a few different types of renewables, you all should know that most energy is created by spinning a turbine. One exception is solar. This turbine and its generator turns movement into electric energy. With non-renewables, the burning of fossil fuel creates steam that also turns the turbine. With renewables, maybe it's air or water spinning that turbine. One releases greenhouse gases, one does not. Don't get us wrong, renewable energy sources are not perfect. There's always room for improvement. But they can sustain us infinitely in a cleaner and greener way. Let's go into a few ways that we can use Earth's natural systems to create sustainable energy for us.
I think the most well-known renewable energy is solar, which is energy generated directly from the sunlight. That energy becomes stored in a battery for our use. During really sunny days, the excess energy goes to an electric grid where it can help provide energy to other buildings in your area. The great thing about solar is that it's the cheapest it's ever been, and it's expected to get even more affordable. So, how does it work? There's solar panels, or photovoltaics, which store radiation and convert it to electricity. There's concentrated solar energy, which is used as mirrors to focus sunlight into a small area to build heat, which then generates electricity. Then there's solar architecture, where buildings are designed to make the most of the sun's energy. For example, a hot area like the desert, houses could be made of more reflective materials so they don't absorb as much heat. My favorite solar architecture idea is a green roof, which are roofs covered in plants that absorb sunlight through photosynthesis. They're removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, cooling the building, and look pretty cool. Something important to note about solar is that while it's a renewable, clean energy source, we must get energy from other sources to satisfy our demand. After all, winter areas close to Earth's poles only get a few hours of sunlight a day.
Another form of renewable energies comes from our oceans, tidal energy. Tidal energy isn't used as widely as solar yet, but it has the potential to seriously support our energy sector. As the tide rises and falls, the movement of water spins a turbine to generate energy. The energy is sent and stored on land, where it adds to our electric grid to support all of us with clean energy from our oceans. Now, let's talk about biofuels. Biofuels can be made from organic materials like plants, trees, algae, whole wheat, corn, straw, and grasses. Sounds like a pretty good solution to our waste problem, huh? This organic matter is broken down by microbes, like yeast, to turn it into liquid biofuels. Right now, they're much more expensive from regular fuel made from, well, fossil fuels. But that's in part because the fossil fuel industry is subsidized by our government. If we switch those subsidies or financial support to biofuels, everyone would be using it. Why isn't biofuel at the gas station yet? There are other forms of renewable energy too, like hydropower, geothermal, and wind. Hydropower uses the flow of rivers and streams to spin the turbine, whereas geothermal uses the heat inside Earth. And then wind power uses, well, wind.
Can we talk about the oceans now?
Yeah, we can talk about the oceans now.
Yes.
As we've learned throughout Ocean Connections, the ocean sustains us all, and right now it really needs our help. A sustainable ocean means one that has biodiversity, can absorb heat from our atmosphere, and cleans our air. We can all be better to the ocean by using less plastic, supporting renewable energy, and making greener choices. But there's some direct solutions as well. The first one is marine protected areas, or MPAs, and they're my favorite. They go by a few different names: marine conservation zones, marine reserves, marine sanctuaries, no-take zones, and marine monuments. But in general, they're all very similar. MPAs are areas of the ocean that put limits on the human activities that are allowed inside of them. Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands is the largest marine sanctuary in the world. And it's bigger than all of our natural parks combined and located right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Right now, there's 5,000 MPAs that cover about 0.8% of our global ocean. Current efforts are trying to get this up to 30% by 2030, a measure called 30 by 30. Some MPAs are open ocean, some are coastlines, some are areas where rivers meet the sea or wetlands, and there's even an MPA for the Great Lakes. The Galapagos Marine Reserve protects over 3,000 different species and many habitats like coral reefs, swamps, mangroves, and the ocean. MPAs make sure that we're sustaining the resources we need so they don't ever run out. For example, within no-take MPAs, no fishing activities allowed at all. This allows the fish populations that live inside it to grow without fishing pressure and then recover. The idea is that these fish populations will spill over and provide resources outside the MPA to help support fishing into the future. In other MPAs, fishing is only restricted during certain seasons or in certain areas. Marine protected areas are a tool to make sure that we have fish for future generations, have healthy ocean ecosystems, and prevent species extinction. Lastly, we're going to talk about sustainable fishing practices, also known as sustainable fisheries. Sustainable fishing is about maintaining the amount of seafood in the ocean so we can continue to have it into the future. Fish populations are called fish stocks, and historically, we've been taking fish out of the sea faster than these fish stocks can reproduce and replenish. This is a concept called overfishing. Bluefin tuna is an example. We've overfished this species to the point where only 21 to 29% of the population exists compared to what it was at in 1970. It's estimated that we remove over 170 billion pounds of sea life from our oceans every single year. More demand in seafood and advanced fishing technology has resulted in fishing activity that can seriously hurt our oceans. One way this happens is through bycatch. Bycatch is when fishers put out a net or fishing line to look for a certain species, but they end up catching other things along the way. These could be sharks, sea turtles, marine mammals, or other species of fish that they weren't looking for. If we fish on a smaller scale, like with just hook and line, one fish is being caught at a time, and the wrong species can be released alive. You can imagine that this is extremely inefficient for the seafood demand that we have, but it's one solution. There's also examples of sustainable fishing that have been practiced by indigenous communities and still continue to this day. In the Philippines, populations of fishers only fish for specific species during certain times of the year, so that allows the fish to replenish itself in the off-season. They also set aside protected areas like important coral reefs and use hook and line fishing so that they're only catching exactly what they need. In order to transition fully to sustainable fishing, we must show a demand for sustainably caught seafood. If we choose sustainably certified seafood or reduce our seafood consumption even by a small little bit, we are helping the ocean by a big amount. On a bigger scale, fishery management agencies help build rules and regulations to keep fish stocks healthy. These decisions are made using both science and policy and work with the fishers to find solutions for that specific area. In the United States, regional fishery management councils manage the fishery with an ecosystem approach that is a bottom-up approach that includes fishers in the decisions that are being made by the management, as well as accounts for the different types of ecosystem effects that fishing activity could have in the area. On the open ocean or in international waters, it's much harder to regulate or enforce fishing practices. That's why we also need international agreements and partnerships to support sustainable fisheries in the open ocean and in our coastal ecosystems. We've done this before, and it was a conservation victory indeed. Have you ever heard of dolphin safe tuna? It's a certification that you can see on your can of tuna that says that tuna was caught without deliberately setting fishing nets on dolphins. When fishing, seeing dolphins is a good indication that tuna might be nearby because they both eat the same prey. In the past, fishing activity would put a net around the entire school of bluefin tuna and end up accidentally killing dolphins in the process. In that case, dolphins were the bycatch. The public grew concerned for dolphins, and they started communicating that loudly. With the help of public education, many activists, and demanding change from politicians and companies, the Dolphin Safe label was started in the US in 1990. It's now used by other countries too. While that necessarily doesn't include all dolphins caught as bycatch, it is a step in the right direction at reducing the amount of dolphins that are accidentally killed as part of the tuna fishery. If all of us speak up for the ocean, our leaders definitely hear us.
The definition of sustainability is the ability to maintain something indefinitely. Our resources, our fish stocks, our energy production. A sustainable future is one that uses the power of natural systems to support a balance. It's one where humans are not separate from nature, but a part of it. A sustainable future is one that considers not just our grandchildren, but our grandchildren's grandchildren. But the paths to these solutions aren't new. They've been paved by the environmental leaders before us. Through the choices we make, the leaders we elect, and the companies we support, we can all be a part of creating a sustainable future, no matter your age or your background. And that's a lot to be stoked on.